All right, let's get started. Again, my name is Michael Swack. I'm the director of the master's program in community development at the Carsey School at the University of New Hampshire. And in our webinar today, I'm going to talk briefly about our online master's program for adult practitioners, particularly talk about the Peace Corps opportunities and interview one of our graduates who is a returned Peace Corps volunteer, Bob Ireland. We are recording this today, and so this will be posted and sent to you as well. If you have questions, please type them into the chat room. I'm joined by my colleague, Robin Husledge, today, and she'll be looking at the chat room and bringing up questions. And Robin is also a graduate of the master's program. So let's start by talking about the Carsey School of Public Policy. The Carsey School has a number of master's programs, research programs, outreach programs. The three master's programs are ones in public policy, public administration, and community development, which we'll be focusing on today. We do have a degree in public policy. You can see it's briefly outlined here. Like I said, we'll be sending the link, so if you want to look more at this, you can do that. The public policy program is an in-person on-campus program right now. There's a Master of Public Administration program, which is a combination evening online program that's part of the Carsey School. And finally, there's the Masters in Community Development program that we'll be talking about today, which will be offered as a fully online program this summer and over the next 4 terms. And that's what I'll be talking about today as our online program. The program is a 36 credit program with 9 core required courses. And really the central element to it all is this capstone project that you do, which is a series of 4 project courses that you take over 4 consecutive terms. The idea behind it is that you are working in your community. You'll pick a project to work on that will run for 4 terms consecutively. And while doing that, you'll be taking a series of courses, which we'll talk about in just a minute. But this capstone project is really central to the learning in the project and connects you to the community. Many people do it in the organization they're working in, but many people also pick an organization or pick a project that's not even affiliated with an organization to build something new. The core courses you take are in management, finance, public policy, and community economic development. And those, along with a series of elective courses in the project, form the core curriculum of the project. As you see here, there's a list of the core courses that starts with an integrative approaches to development. That's an overview course where we ask you to think about your theory of development. And then there are a series of courses in policy analysis, economic analysis, organizational, and financial management. You'll see then the names of the 4 project courses there, the introduction, the design, the implementation and monitoring, and evaluation. These all coincide with the project that you actually carry out in your community. There are also a series of electives, some of which are listed on the slide here. The capstone project, as I mentioned, is one that's a 4-course sequence. You see on the picture here, Nisha Grimes, who's also a returned Peace Corps volunteer who served in Costa Rica. We've had a number of returned Peace Corps volunteers go through the program. They find it to be a good fit with community development practice and what they go into when they return to the United States. We'll talk to Bob in just a moment. We've had a number of capstone projects, people from a number of countries from all over the world. And we'll talk about some of those capstones. We'll ask Bob to talk a little bit about his as well. The program now is, as I mentioned, fully online. It'll run for 10 weeks this summer, starting June 4th and running through August. There are also fall and spring terms online. And The final summer, the fourth term, will also be a 10-week online term next summer. In the past, we've held also a in-person short-term residency, which is now 2 weeks. We're not doing that this summer, but there may be a choice again for those who are interested to do a short-term residency in the future. The program costs you can see there. Those are the costs for the entire program. And we have a number of scholarship awards that also are available to you in addition to loan programs. But we also have grant programs, including the Coverdale Fellows Award, which provides an $8,000 scholarship and represents close to 30% of the total tuition costs. So the tuition and financial aid are available. The program also can be spread out over time. If you don't want to finish in 14 months, you can take fewer classes. One thing I would add, and then we'll get into Bob's talk as well, is one of the key elements to the program is you go through the program as a cohort. That is, you take your key required classes together. Online, even, you work in groups. You get to know people particularly well. The cohort groups are small, generally between 15 and 20 people. And so you go through with the same people in all the required courses, including the 4-course sequence in the project course that you take. And we find this is a real strength of the program. People really enjoy getting to know people in their cohort. And one of the strengths of the program is the incredible diversity of the program, which I'll ask Bob to talk about in a minute, but people from all over, age ranges from 20s into their 50s and even beyond, all sorts of diversity in the program. So it's an incredibly interesting program in terms of just your colleagues, your cohort, the people you go through with. We believe that's a real strength of the program. We work with people on job placement and careers. We know that returned Peace Corps volunteers, especially if you're relatively new, you may be coming back and finding, how do you transition from doing community development type work overseas to doing that type of work in the United States? And so we'll work with you. You can see that graduates of our program work in a wide range of community-based organizations, nonprofits, private corporations, consulting, government. Here are a few of the graduates you can see work everywhere from housing to education to small and micro enterprise, really quite a lot of diversity in terms of what our graduates do. Application to the program is relatively simple. There are no GRE scores required. We look for transcripts, or if your undergraduate degree, a personal statement, 3 letters of recommendation, and the application deadline for this year is May 1st. We also do offer the opportunity for people to pick up a course here or there. If you would like to start early, you can take a course online in the fall and the spring. We occasionally have people who do that and then join their full cohort in the following summer. So with that, Robin, before we move to introduce Bob, any questions that have come up that we should address?
Yeah, there are a couple. The one question is about the capstone project. The question is, do you assign them, or do the students, create a partnership with their organization or an outside organization on their own?
Yeah, the project is one you pick on your own, and we can help with that. But it starts with, what are you interested in? What do you want to do? Many of the students come into the program and choose to do a project in their place of employment. They're already working in a place. They have an idea for a new program, a new project, something they'd like to do in their current workplace. And so they have a pretty good idea of what they want to do. Others come not sure. They know the community that they're going to be in. They have an organization that they might like to coordinate with. And others like to start something just from scratch. We've had people start their own organizations as part of what they do. whatever you'd like to do, you basically have the first term to think about it. You don't have to come in with a project already decided. And if you have a goal, something you'd like to do, we'll also work with you to help develop, design the project, or connect you to an organization that might be a host for the project. So there's a lot of flexibility in defining what the project is. The starting point really is, what's your interest? Where do you want to build your skills? What sort of opportunity are you seeking in the graduate program? And we'll work with you on that.
Thank you, Michael. Another question is, when you're doing the online coursework, is everybody online at the same time, or is it an offline program?
Yeah, good question. It's basically an asynchronous program. What that means is you do the work, the reading, the assignments on your time. When you are able to do that work, you post assignments and join discussion boards online. There are exceptions in that each class will generally have 2 or 3 face-to-face meetings through Zoom per session where everybody gets together online. We try and do that at a time when everybody is available. If there are sessions held, we also record them. So if for some reason you can't make one of the face-to-face sessions, you can see what went on. But basically, it's asynchronous. That is, you're not required to be online to take a class, but there are occasional meetings online of the class just to have a discussion or a follow-up. But lectures are recorded, discussion groups meet and carry out work online. You can organize a discussion group that you're assigned to on a particular assignment to talk on a time that's available for the 2 or 3 members in your group. But again, basically, it's asynchronous.
Thank you, Michael. That's all the questions I see at the moment.
Good. Well, let's move then to introduce Bob Ireland. Bob, thanks for joining us today. You are a former Peace Corps volunteer who came through the program and graduated. It's hard to believe, but almost 5 years ago now, wasn't it?
Yeah, believe it or not.
So welcome. I wonder if you could start by just telling us about first, what was your Peace Corps experience? Where were you? What did you do?
Sure. Yeah, I can start. And thank you for having me. And I'm happy to be here to share my experience and hopefully encourage folks to partake in the program. It's a really special experience for me. My experience in Peace Corps began in 2010. Believe it or not, coming up on a 10-year anniversary here, amazingly enough. But it was in Ukraine, and it was really, really transformative for me, and life changing, quite frankly. That's where I really got the itch to work in communities and to really try to focus in on creating positive change in any locality wherever I am. And I've really carried that on to my experiences here back in my home county of Berkshire County, Massachusetts. But I mean, my Peace Corps experience, it was challenging to say the least. You're in a fast-paced international environment, and you have to think on the fly. I'm sure a lot of these Peace Corps volunteers who are listening today certainly understand that you have to be able to communicate effectively and really get to the core issues of what are the needs of your community. And thankfully, I was able to do that. I focused in primarily as a teacher, teaching English as a foreign language, and really worked with an NGO in a community development capacity as well. I think that we were very effective in writing a series of grants. I did have grant writing experience through Peace Corps, and really creating that on the ground local change. So it was really a positive experience for me. And Ukraine's been transformative. Been going through a transformative period, as you know, as well.
Yeah, you've probably gotten a lot of questions in the past year about the Ukraine.
Yeah,
been in the
For
news a
sure.
lot.
For sure.
So Bob, when you returned, how did you decide to return to school? What made you decide, and how did you end up picking the Master's in Community Development program?
Well, like I said, I mean, I really got the bug to create positive change and in these local communities. And one thing that I talked with my cohort in Peace Corps about, we've all been very close, and we built a bond that is lasting for sure. And we all sat down and we said, all right, what's next? What's going to happen after our service? What are we going to do? And the overwhelming consensus was we need to go back to wherever we're going back to in the United States or abroad and really try to commit to creating positive change. And so when I began to think about what that looks like, I was transitioning away from a teaching career and really trying to transition into a community development capacity. And I knew that I had this Peace Corps experience, but I really started to look into graduate programs that would work for me. I'm a blue collar guy. I need to work. I couldn't just stop working to pursue my graduate studies, and I needed something that worked for me. And I saw the hybrid program at that time. We were just about a month at UNH. That worked for me. I knew that I could continue to build relationships, and also work on a project from home and in my community. And it really worked for me. And the Coverdale fellow stipend was certainly a positive for me as well.
What was your project, Bob?
So my project, when I began to look in the community, and I'm from Pittsfield, Massachusetts, and Pittsfield, Massachusetts, like a lot of cities and towns in the United States, was a post-industrial community that was really looking to change its focus from our past, from a General Electric community where we built transformers and worked in plastics, and the majority of the workforce was working for one company, into a more tourist and cultural economy. And so when I began to look at organizations that I could work with, I came across the Barrington Stage Company. They really began a presence in the downtown of our community. They've been expanding since my project, and I really just approached them, and I said, I'm at the University of New Hampshire Carsey School of Public Policy, and I'd really like to work with you on a particular project. And really just sat down and listened, and saw what their needs were, and they presented an opportunity for me. The opportunity was, they were looking to get into an innovation and learning network, really exploring universal design, and how to bring an old theater, and theater experience into a modern state, and really implement universal design practices. And they were working with the Massachusetts Cultural Council in the beginning stages to try to receive grant money, and also get into the Mass Cultural Council's Innovation and Learning Network. So I worked with them to do so. I did a lot of the proposal writing. I worked with some of the expert users that the state came out to really listen, and see how the organization could really begin to implement universal design practices. And I was really proud that I did that, for sure. And they were really receptive to me, and it gave me a stake in the community, from which I was coming from Peace Corps back into my hometown community. And that, as some of the Peace Corps volunteers who are listening today may find this as one of their challenges, is we all have our networks. And I had been in the Boston area for a long time, and then served in Peace Corps for 27 months. And had come back into my hometown community, and really a lot of my network had dried up. So um, to be able to um, work with an organization like this and really show my ability to help out, and utilize my experience was really paramount for me, for sure.
Yeah, so you really invented your project then. I mean, you probably didn't know what it was when you started the program. So you,
No, I didn't. I mean, like, I just utilized my Peace Corps experience. I went
Mhm.
out, and I researched different organizations, and I talked with different folks in the community, and I had a few contacts that suggested to me that I maybe pursue Barrington Stage Company, and really just went in a listening capacity, and how can I help here? And
and what was,
they were more than they needed the help, of course, as many organizations do. And they're really welcoming to that fact, and they're really excited the fact that you're affiliated with a graduate program, and have the ability to work with them in such a capacity. It's kind of an exciting thing, to be honest with you.
uh, yeah. What were the outcomes of the project? What ended up
So
happening? What were you able
yeah,
to accomplish?
so in the proposal writing, the outcomes were we were accepted into the program, and really, you know, we're able to take part in the Innovation and Learning Network, which spanned the state of Massachusetts, and really gain perspective and site visits, and really we're able to see what had what we could add to our particular theater. And so
Hmm.
as a result, we were able to get some grant funding to really invest in some assisted listening devices,
Hmm.
and those assisted listening devices and other other universal design type capacities, we were able to implement into the theater. And now they have really kind of cool, innovative programming, for autistic children, and the sensory sensitive theater, which is really kind of has spawned out of this project. So it was really it was
And so
really
you're able to
go ahead.
sound like you create a more inclusive experience and attract new theater goers. It sounds like.
For sure. And the theater industry here in Berkshire County has been around for a long time, but Barrington Stage has really made a presence in Pittsfield, and has been innovative in their projects, and participating with Mass Cultural Council. And some of those outcomes have really spread to other organizations. Berkshire Museum has really begun to implement a lot of the same projects. Berkshire Theater Festival as well, and so it's really been informative for the community as a whole. And
That's
Barrington
cool.
Stage started a lot of that.
So tell us what you do now.
So now I work as the development director at the Lenox Library in Lenox, Massachusetts. Um, it has an enormous history dating back all the way to Edith Wharton, and some of the Gilded Age folks, um, Carnegie's. For those Civil War buffs out there, Robert Gould Shaw, and a lot of the different New England style historical figures. Um, the library is a really special place, and I'm responsible as the development director of the association portion of the library. We are the main fundraising arm of the library, and we're responsible for raising $132,000 a year, um, to give to the town to operate the library programming and such. And then on top of that 132,000, we provide all of the library programming, free and inclusive to all patrons that come. And people come from all over. Um, all over the world, really, to visit Lenox and to come through the library. And I believe last year we saw 70,000 people come through the doors of the library. So it's pretty impressive. And
Yeah, yeah.
and anyone can partake in the programming that the association provides, from concerts in the park in the summertime to Lenox is home. Some of you may not know, is home to the Boston Symphony Orchestra summertime programming at Tanglewood. So we provide Tanglewood lectures, which give some insight into the particular concerts for that evening, and they tend to be a really big draw.
So
Go ahead.
I was going to say, one of the things that, just to build on that, one of the things that we talk about a lot in the program is that it's very practical and skill oriented. And, you have to take courses in financial management and organizational development and stuff like that. I wonder if you could talk about how the course of study enhanced your ability to do your work.
Yeah, really. One thing I'll say for sure is the finance portion of the coursework was very important to me. That was one piece that I was missing, and it's a very important piece to what I do now as a development director. I'm creating budgets. I'm responsible for. I mean, especially now during a crazy time that we're in, and experiencing budget crunches and such, to be able to build a flexible and fluid budget is very important. And right down to some of the community development finance courses that I took with yourself, Michael, they were very informative to me because I just didn't have that background. My undergraduate was history, with a heavy dose of liberal arts, English and such, and I just didn't have that background. And I've really been able to expand on that since. And that's been important to me. And also one thing that's important as well as part of the course programming was the planning portion, the design, and the logic model. I'm utilizing logic models. I have 17 trustees that I report to, and the first thing that they wanted was a development plan. That's something that my organization hasn't had, and so I am basically in the process now of utilizing every tool that I learned in the community development policy and practice program in my organization now in terms of planning. So we've just gone through a needs assessment phase and some of the. I didn't have formal focus groups, but the key informant interviews and such, and talking with folks in the library patrons, employees, and seeing what they really need. And now we're getting into, we just built a committee, and we're getting into some of the hardcore logic model planning components. So I'm excited about that.
Great. Let me ask you one last question.
Sure.
Which is, can you share something, a memorable experience in the program that you had that might be interesting to other people who are thinking about the program?
Yeah, a general experience on that I really am most thankful for is, even though I had international experience in Peace Corps, I was coming back into the United States, and in my hometown in particular, and I really had kind of like this really kind of fishbowl type view of what my hometown was, post-industrial, um, and a lot of the needs. And I really thought that my town was unique. And what I found in the program through working with my cohort is this was occurring all over the United States. and how they were tackling, how each community was tackling their issues was really informative to me, because um, it gave me different perspectives, and that's something that I really valued about my Peace Corps experience as well. Is everyone was from all over the country, and they shared their experiences about what it was to be in Mobile, Alabama, what it was to be in the inner cities of Los Angeles, and all the way up to much like Carsey is the what it is to be in a community in New Hampshire. And so sharing in those experiences with your cohort is very and very, very important. And another thing I want to mention as well is the international and global experience of that cohort as well. So just because someone is you, you know, is experiencing something half a world away in Nigeria doesn't mean that you can't find commonality in what it is to create that local change. And it really, it opens and broadens my experience to be able to say and draw upon and continue to have these conversations with my cohort to say, hey, how can we implement something like this here? How you know, how does something like recently I've been thinking about World Central Kitchen. How does how does Jose Andres' experience really translate into what that looks like locally here without a Jose Andres? How do we implement food resiliency here in our own communities, and drawing upon those folks' opinions is really, really important. And that was really something to me that I will carry on, and I do carry on.
Yeah, great. Bob, thank you for taking the time to join us today. Robin, let me just ask, are there any other questions that people have of Bob?
Not at this time. I think everybody was just really listening to the story and Bob's experience.
Great. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. We will send to you a link to the video here that we took today. Also, if you have questions, please feel free to contact us. You can contact me or Sanjeev or Robin. We can answer any questions that you have, and we welcome your applications. We have a deadline of May 1st, but I know that many people hearing about it the first time, so feel free to pursue an application where you may start in the fall or next summer even. But again, feel free to contact us with any questions. So thank you again, Bob. Appreciate it. Thank you, Robin. And thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.